For decades, menopause and the treatments used to manage it haven't just been misunderstood. They've been surrounded by silence, stigma, and a deep discomfort with women getting older. Hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, was once widely prescribed, but after early studies raised concerns, fear-based warnings followed, reinforcing the idea that aging women should simply endure the symptoms like hot flashes, brain fog, and bone loss quietly. Aging women have long been treated as something to hide, not something to understand or properly cared for. Now that mindset might finally be changing. In the US, the FDA recently announced plans to remove long-standing black box warning from menopause hormone therapies, acknowledging that decades-old messaging no longer reflects the current science.
The FDA is announcing today that it will remove the misleading black box warnings from all HRT products. In 1999, approximately 27% of postmenopausal women took hormone replacement therapy. Then in 2002, a study called the Women's Health Initiative found that women taking hormone replacement therapy may have an increased risk of breast cancer diagnoses, not mortality, but diagnoses. The study was not statistically significant, but it triggered a media frenzy and led to the FDA applying unscientific black box warnings to all hormone replacement therapy products in 2003. The label was designed to frighten women and to silence doctors. It warned of diseases and dangers that the data simply did not support. Bureaucrats at the FDA reacted out of fear, not gold standard science. And instead of correcting the record, the medical establishment doubled down in groupthink. The consequences have been devastating.
Tell me more about how that 2002 scare that was, again, bannered, and I've talked to some of the authors of that study, and they'll say, well, it wasn't statistically significant in the study. The media ran with it, and, kind of like it was the media's fault. Well, we can debate. It was fed to the media, and the publication was not out, and so why did the media run with it without the data? But tell me what it looked like on the ground when talking to patients.
When the Women's Health Initiative study came out,
Yeah,
and the media,
2002.
So women were scared. You had certainly less women coming in and asking for HRT. So you have to remember, when I trained, it wasn't that women were coming in always to initiate, to want a prescription for HRT. We were given it, part of the preventive health, right? But now you had women that were afraid, right, to even ask the question because they're dealing with their symptoms and they are afraid because if you hear the word cancer, and I think for a woman, cancer more than a heart attack is a big deal, right? Nobody wants cancer, and particularly breast cancer. You have women that fear getting a mammogram every year because they're afraid that they're going to come back with a diagnosis of cancer.
One of the loudest voices pushing that conversation into the open is actress Halle Berry. Speaking at a recent New York summit, Berry has been blunt about how menopause is treated, not as a health transition, but as a personal failure tied to aging.
I, Halle Berry, and women of my age are simply devalued in this country. Our culture thinks that at 59 years old, I am past my prime, and that women my age start to become invisible. In Hollywood, in the workplace, on social media, women are pressured to stay forever 35.
The Oscar-winning actress said that the shame surrounding menopause is really about society's discomfort with older women, and that it leaves millions navigating symptoms without support, information, or validation.
We're complimented if we seem to be aging backwards or defying gravity, as if that's even possible. And if we somehow manage to look younger than our years, we're suggesting that that's the gold standard that our worth should be measured by. We're encouraged to contort our bodies and our faces in truly extreme ways to chase this elusive fountain of youth.
Advocates say the FDA's decision, along with renewed political attention on HRT, signals a broader reckoning, one that treats menopause as a medical issue, not a moral or a cultural one.
The truth is, we cannot turn back Father Time. And guess what? We shouldn't have to. When we allow ourselves to be manipulated into believing that our exterior is more important than our interior, our health included, we run the risk of becoming hollow beings that have nothing of value to offer. As women, you've heard this before, but we should be allowed to age gracefully, just as you men are allowed to do.
In the UK, the conversation around menopause has become harder to ignore, both in government and in the workplace. Menopause is now increasingly recognized as a workplace issue, with many UK employers offering menopause policies, flexible working arrangements, and training for managers.
For more than 2 decades, the American medical establishment turns its back on women.
When you start out, you're taking care of young women. You're taking care of them in the baby years, right? So they're not talking about perimenopause, all that. It's a happy time. It's about having babies and whatnot, until all of a sudden you hit your 40s and then your 50s, and then you're really talking about issues that impact your ability to function as a female day to day. In all the things you do, parenting, working, being a wife, and all of those kind of things. So it really becomes a big deal.
Millions of women were told to fear the very therapy that could have given them strength, peace, and dignity through one of life's most difficult transitions, menopause. That ends today. The FDA is initiating the removal of a broad black box warnings from hormone replacement therapy products for menopause. We're challenging outdated thinking and recommitting to evidence-based medicine that empowers rather than restricts. When prescribed responsibly and started early, hormone replacement therapy transforms the lives of women. Hormone replacement therapy has been found to reduce the risks of cardiovascular disease and mortality by as much as 50%, Alzheimer's disease by 35%, bone fractures by 50 to 60%, as well as reducing cognitive decline and all-cause mortality. In other words, extending the lives for as much as 10 years. It helps women sleep better, think more clearly, and live fuller, longer, and healthier lives. In short, it restores balance, not just hormonally, but emotionally and physically.
We, as people who are training the next generation, need to figure out how in our training that we can actually get more training for our future doctors. That are going to be out there and taking care of, the next generation of women that are going to be going through perimenopause and menopause.
The NHS offers menopause care through GPs and specialist clinics, with access to HRT, non-hormonal treatments, and counseling. In recent years, HRT prescriptions have been expanded, costs reduced through annual prescription certificates, and national guidelines updated to emphasize individualized care. Advocates say gaps remain, with long wait times, uneven access to specialists, and lingering stigma still preventing some women from getting timely help. From FDA hearing rooms in the US to GP surgeries and workplaces across the UK, the message is slowly becoming clearer. Menopause is not a failure, and getting older is not something women should be ashamed of. For millions, this shift could mean better care, better understanding, and a long overdue change in how women's aging is treated, medically, culturally, and politically.